Hi, my name is Emily Iannelli, and this is my second video for the night. I did a tribute video for a friend. Um, Before, I was kind of hungry, and there wasn't much in the house, so I ventured out to get takeout food, which I finished. It was good. I also took a shower after I ate and after I did the tribute video for my friend. It was a little scary tonight when I was going to get something to eat, as I was on 106, which is Newbridge Road, between Levittown and Hicksville, and I was driving like I normally do. I'm a very alert driver, defensive driver, conservative driver, and I'm lucky because I drive usually in the right lane. And tonight, especially lucky in the right lane, because as I was driving on 106 or Newbridge Road, there was a car I could hear, and it was approaching me, and the guy or whoever was driving was speeding, and all of a sudden, I heard this like a boom, and he hit the curb. This guy, he was driving like at least over 60 miles an hour on a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit road. And he lost control of the car, and it hit the curb. And when he hit, he knocked over a fence. I mean, not a sign. He knocked over a sign when he hit the median. And then all I saw were like he was like almost on my, he came close up to my car, and I saw sparks underneath his carriage chassis of the car, the bottom. I saw sparks, and he like was weaving back and forth, and he skidded, which scared me. And then he just regained composure, I guess, and he just sped off. But it scared me because I had no control over the situation, and I thought he was going to ram my car. So obviously, I'm a bit shaken up. Um, I had to like stop and pull over to the shoulder, and I just had to gain composure because I really don't like to drive now, given the fact that I'm on medication. Um, I am very cognizant of the road, and in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking what would happen if I got into a car accident. And I've even had dreams about that. So it's very scary. And the less amount of time driving on the roads, the better. Obviously, I have to drive, though. I have to run errands. I have to go to my doctor appointments. I have to take my son to his doctor appointments. And to go out to, let's say, the Broadway Mall to get something to eat and see a movie with my son, it's like 3 mile distance from Levittown. And there's no way I could walk to the theater with my son. So that's why I really depend on having a vehicle, a car, because without it, we would be very limited. And living in Long Island, you need a car. So I have no choice. Plus, I need to go places, even though they're local, with the exception of the city, well, sometimes I drive into the city, depending on the location of my doctor's office. But usually I just drive to the Target parking lot and I walk over to the train station. But it shook me up pretty good. And I was happy I got home in one piece. It could have been very bad if this guy lost total control and he veered into my car. That would have been a pretty bad accident. So I'm just fortunate that that didn't happen. And I got my food and I drove back home and I took a shower after doing another video. And now I feel much more calmer and relaxed. So that is why I'm able to do this video. Now, the focus of my video now is to talk about depression, because I am suffering deeply from depression. I do have bipolar disorder as well, but I have been, I would guess, because I'm having a lot of difficulty going to sleep at a relatively normal hour. Sometimes I stay up the whole night because I'm consumed with my desire to write and my desire to make videos. And then I get caught up in TV or watching a Blu-ray or DVD. And sometimes I just get caught up in YouTube watching music videos or documentaries or free movies without subscription necessary. Because they do play some movies, but not like current release movies. Otherwise, you have to pay for that once they're on Blu-ray or DVD or both. So basically, that's what I do. I write, I make videos, all kinds of videos, all different types of themes, mainly transgender. I talk about depression like I am now, autism, pretty much that, and some more, like slideshows of my male to female transition. I try to set those videos with music in the background to make them more interesting. Well, the slideshow videos, but not when I'm talking, obviously, because that would drown out my words, so that wouldn't make sense. But I am struggling with depression. I have bipolar disorder, and right now I feel I'm in a mania stage right now. Because when I'm in mania stage, I can stay up all night, like I said. I get completely immersed into my writing, where I feel I'm compelled to write. And I'm just fortunate that writing to me is not as difficult as it once was. Because now the words flow. Once I get an idea, I run with it and I create a nice writing piece. I've received some compliments, which makes me feel good. Obviously, we all like to be recognized for our talents. I do feel I'm a bit underrated, but what can I do? I'm putting my emotions and my heart out there. I lived closed off in the closet for 50 years. So now I feel liberated and I feel I can open up. And I think by my opening up, I can, share my story, so to speak, and hopefully maybe affect someone in a positive way. Like I mentioned in another discussion on a video, I also received a beautiful written card addressed to me, but no return address, and it was signed a friend. But basically, it was someone who was really kind to me because they were saying how they've been following me on Facebook and they have been intrigued with my journey of male to female transition and my desire to help my son who's on the autistic spectrum as best I can. So, yes, this person who remains unknown to me simply signed the card a friend. No return address, no mention of name, aside from my name where he or she addressed it as Dear Emily. And in the card, tucked in the card, is a $50 gift card to Kohl's, which I haven't used yet, but I intend to as soon as possible. I don't believe it has an expiration date, so there's really no rush. And I'm grateful to this person who acknowledged me and made me feel good, and on top of that gave me a gift of this $50 Kohl's gift card. And in the card, which is handwritten note, this person said they just wanted to see me smile, which touched me in a profound way. And I tried my best to say thank you through the medium of YouTube and Facebook, since this individual says they've been following me on Facebook. So I believe if they're still following me, then they would see my thank you video and thank you pictures with my own commentary. So I'm grateful for that. That helps me when I'm going through a depressed stage. I'm very depressed for many reasons. The main reason is my son's situation and realizing that we're going to have to put him in a group home. I had all my dreams of him doing so much, and now I'm crushed. I'm heartbroken because I always wanted the best for Matthew. And now I am coming to the realization that Matthew isn't really going to have a normal life. And it's killing me inside. But I know what I have to do. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult thing to have to do. I was having these dreams that Matthew would graduate his high school. He would go on to college to study something he truly would enjoy. He would have a strong dedication to succeeding, and he'd make a friend or two. And then one day maybe meet a girl that he connects with and has a family of his own after they get married. But, this is all pie in the sky wishes now. As now I just have to come to grips with reality, knowing that my son is going to struggle with autism for the rest of his life. And I only wish I knew how to find a way to get him to handle life with dignity and courage and high self-esteem despite his autism, because I've read inspirational stories about autistic children who grew up into adulthood, and some of them have relatively successful lives. And I was intrigued with one girl specifically, even though boys are more prone to autism than girls. However, girls too are on the autistic spectrum. And I believe this girl in particular has Asperger's syndrome, and she's high functioning like my son. But my son is not high functioning socially. He's only high function intellectually, though I don't know his IQ. And I know for sure if he's going to struggle at Nassau Community College, he's not going to go to Harvard University. But I'm not thinking of that anyway. I just want him to be happy. And if he finds his way and goes to even Nassau Community or Farmingdale, maybe he'll go into something that he likes. He likes to write. He loves to sit at the computer screen. I don't know what he does sometimes because he's on YouTube. But I'm very depressed. You know, I'm also hoping to do the male to female transgender bottom surgery. But right now that's on hold until I get an aftercare plan in place and I remain stable in my mind, my emotions, and I don't wind up back in the psychiatric hospital. Because in January, I was so depressed that I wanted to end my life, you know? I wanted to die. And that's why I overdosed deliberately on prescription medication. But luckily, I guess I survived. Twice, actually, within the span of 3 weeks in 2 different hospitals. Because I was unconscious for 2 days. And then on my birthday, I woke up. And my nurse who was tending to me removed my IV tubes so I could eat. And then after I finished eating, I watched a little TV, and then I had to go to the restroom. And when I was in the restroom, unaccompanied or with no one watching me, I was looking in the shower and I saw this string hanging from the top of the windowsill, I think. Not a windowsill, but there was a string hanging down. I've never seen that before. So I was kind of curious, and I was disappointed that I didn't die when I overdosed deliberately. If it wasn't for a friend, I wouldn't be here today. He saw that I got the medical attention I needed, police, paramedics. I have no recollection of that. But if he didn't come by, I would have died most likely. And then, like I said, I was very disappointed that I didn't die. I was 2 days in the hospital unconscious, not knowing anything for that 2-day period. So when I was in the bathroom, I saw this string and I was curious. So I wrapped it around my neck and I pulled tight in attempt to commit suicide. But there was a nurse who was kind of worrying about me because I was in there for quite some time. And she opened the door and she saw me with the cord wrapped around my neck, and she immediately grabbed me out of there, making sure that the cord was untied. And she reported the incident to my doctor, and they came and visited me for like an hour trying to figure out what I was trying to do, which was my attempt at suicide. And this was on my 58th birthday in the hospital. So I guess God is not calling me yet. I have so many problems. I'm unable to work right now given my bipolar disorder, being transgender, struggling with severe depression, having suicide ideation, and worrying about my autistic son. I have to go to doctor appointments to maintain my long-term disability because they need proof that I'm not well and that I'm unable to work. So I had to send the the long-term disability carrier, Prudential, all the paperwork associated with my 2 hospitalizations in January of 2019. When I read the medical report, when I requested it, I was quite shocked with what the doctor wrote who spoke with me. And I have absolutely no recollection that she did speak with me. But in the medical evaluation, in the medical report that she signed off on, she was asking me questions while I was drifting in unconsciousness. And when she would call me by Emily, I would wake up. She'd ask me a question. I believe I would answer her, even though I don't have any recollection of it. And then I would fall back asleep. So she must have asked me like 15 questions. But like I said, I had no recollection. And then she came to visit me the very next day, and she asked me, "Do you remember me?" And I looked at her and I said, "No. No, I don't, miss." So she said, "Well, I didn't expect you to, because you were drifting in between consciousness and unconsciousness as I was trying to ask you a series of questions. You answered them, but it seemed like you didn't really know what was going on, or you were just unconscious, but able to answer some questions." And then when I read the medical report, I saw one question specifically where she's asked me if I have any remorse for attempting suicide. And I said, according to the medical report, which I have no recollection of saying, I said, according to what she wrote, that I said, yes, I do have remorse. I wished I had died, but I'm still here. And that's why I tried to hang myself also. I didn't say that to her, but that's what I realized. And she was notified of my suicide attempt in the shower, where I tried to hang myself. So she had to clear me medically to be able to go to South Oaks to spend at least 2 weeks there. I spent a week at NUMC. I have no idea what they did when they discovered I overdosed on my prescription medication. And I'm sure the paramedics were trying to do something as well, but I have no recollection of that either. I was dead to the world for 2 days with amnesia. I have no recollection of anything. But my depression is lifelong, and I think it has to do with my transgender situation, my son's autistic situation, my being jobless, being discriminated against, and boredom and isolation and loneliness. Basically, I'm only doing a few things. I write, I record videos, I do some spoken word recordings, which I haven't done in quite some time, but I still have 7 albums. As long as I keep renewing the yearly subscription, I'll be out there on the digital websites, including Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, Amazon, MSN, iHeartRadio. I'm on Reverb Nation. That's where my artist page is, T-Girl Angel. I'm on Number One Music. So it helps me cope by writing, because I immerse myself into the writing and I don't have time to think and get depressed. So that's a good coping skill for me. However, it doesn't take away my depression. My depression is there, deep-rooted depression, because I lost my parents both to suicide 19 years apart. First my mom in 1990, and then my dad in 2009, which is 10 years ago, April 16th, 2009, the day after tax season. So, yeah, I was devastated by my parents' unfortunate suicides. I lost my 26-year-old nephew to an overdose, most likely a suicide attempt where he was successful. I don't know how you can equate successful with suicide attempt, because successful means you died in the process. So I wonder, I don't think that's really successful, though it is successful in the reality that the person went through with the suicide attempt and they actually died as a result. And then I was like very fascinated with a program on CNN, Parts Unknown, by Anthony Bourdain, who I loved. I enjoyed watching his show. He was fascinating and he had the best interviews, and he ate just about anything, and I found that fascinating. And he visited other countries. He blended in with the people. He was cool. He had like tattoos. He did drugs in his early days. He was a master chef, and that's why he had this love of food, no matter what it was, you know. Yeah, I was very depressed about that, and also I was depressed with the unfortunate death of that woman designer. Her name happens to slip my mind right now, but if I think it in my mind before I end the video, I'll mention her name, but you know who I'm talking about. She died actually a week before Anthony Bourdain committed suicide. She also committed suicide, and they both did the same way, hanging themselves. That's why I had the idea in my head when I saw the opportunity to hang myself, but I was discovered by the nurse, and then they had to confine me to the bed. I could not leave my bed until they would unlock the restraints, because I was like restrained to the bed post. Depression is difficult to deal with. The sad thing is it's not recognized as an illness by most of society, though they seem to be coming around, I hope. But it's a disease that's not talked about, because people think you can snap out of depression. They don't realize the degrees of depression. I know because I live with it every day. My mother was depressed, my father was depressed, I'm depressed, my son is depressed. It's like a life cycle, or like it's passed down. And also my father's eldest sister, her son, 32 years old, who was father of 3 children. He was married. Unfortunately, his wife had an affair, and she left the marriage and took the 3 kids and forbid him any visitation rights. So unfortunately, he couldn't handle that, and he went into his Jeep, and he got his pistol from the glove compartment, and he put it to his head, and he pulled the trigger, and he committed suicide. And his mom came from work 10 minutes, roughly. That's what I was told. Theoretically, 10 minutes, they say. And she pulled up in the driveway and she saw that horror show. And it really changed her in such a negative way. And I just had gone to visit 2 years earlier with my dad, and he seemed very happy. So you really can't tell, you know. Depression is very difficult and very sad, because it takes lives, young children, even teenagers, like Amanda Todd, that transgender girl whose parents were trying to use conversion therapy on her, Leila Alcorn, who walked into the path of a tractor trailer and was killed instantly. I don't know why people have to struggle like this. And I was devastated watching a video on YouTube. I think I mentioned it in a post also on my Facebook account and Instagram account, where I was watching, for some reason I was wanting to watch Snow Patrol, because I love one of their videos, Chasing Cars, I think it's called. One of my favorite songs, but it has a sad theme to it. So I believe people who watch that kind of associate tragedy with the song, even though it's not directly related. To them, it's a way of connecting the tragedy to the song. And I was reading this woman's post. It was like almost fate that I was drawn to watch this video. And I always scroll down while I'm watching the video to the comments. And the very first comment, now it's the second comment because somebody added a comment after that. And this comment was 2 years ago. And I replied to it. And I was devastated when I read it. This poor woman, she has 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, 2 sons and a daughter. And in 2009, same month as my father's suicide, same year as well, April of 2009, I don't know the date that she took her life, but my dad took his life on April 16, 2009. And she also took her life in April of 2009. My dad on April 16, 2009, not 2019. 10 years ago now. And it devastated me. And then I realized, you know, why do I want to kill myself? I don't want to hurt my son or my family or friends that know me. But when you're in pain, especially emotional pain, and you're frustrated about your lot in life, sometimes you feel depression is the way out of the pain. It obviously was for my mom and dad, my cousin, my nephew. I've tried it for about 4 or 5 times over the course of my life. Most of them in the span of 7 years, in the aftermath of my coming out and being let go from my employer, and then getting sick, fainting, winding up at Bellevue Hospital, and then going to Mount Sinai for my psychiatric and therapy care. I bounced around because I was there for 3 years, and then unfortunately my therapist was moving on, and I wasn't seeing the psychiatrist either. So I went to Callan Lord, where I was going there for my doctor needs for my hormones, HRT for my male to female transition. And I was recommended to use their department that counsels people for psychological issues, depression, being transgender. And I was going there for like a year until they said I could no longer go because they don't accept the private insurance. They only accept Medicare. And I was on my wife's health insurance plan. And that was the primary. So Medicare was secondary. So they couldn't send the paperwork to the private insurer, but as a formality, they did, even though they didn't have a contract with them. And they don't accept private insurance anyway. And then I guess they would submit it to Medicare. Theoretically, they were supposed to cover it, but they were secondary. So once my team at Callan Lord found out, they had to tell me that I could no longer go there because of my insurance situation. And then I wound up back at Mount Sinai because of the connection with the transgender. They have a team of doctors, psychiatrists, therapists, and that's where I go now, in hopes that I can also do the male to female transgender surgery. But it's been a long road for me, you know, and if I wasn't transgender, I almost wonder what my life would have turned out to be if I was normal, so to speak. But I tried to go back to that life not that long ago, and I got very depressed, and it was the worst thing I did, because you can see I'm back to transitioning, which I guess is my second attempt at transitioning from male to female. So sometimes I get so depressed I don't want to live anymore. And it's unfortunate, you know, and I have 2 reunions coming up. One is a reunion of a tribute to our coach for the cross-country and track teams. I was on the track and cross-country teams from 1978 to 1979. 2 years I was on the JV squad, and I met a lot of good friends, and Coach was very good to me. He knew my background with my parents' illnesses, and he was like a mentor to me. He took me in under his wing, and it didn't matter that I was only on the JV team. He treated me just like he did his master runners that were on the varsity team, and they also treated me with kid gloves because they concerned too, and they were cheering me on at certain parts of the race course, which gave me the incentive to run as hard as I could. And it was nice to get that kind of attention, and made me feel good. But I was hiding my true struggle with being transgender, even though I didn't know that word at that time when I was 18 or 17, though I did want to do the surgery at 16. And I was fascinated by girls at the age of 3, and I was hoping that I would become one myself. So it's very difficult to have to deal with that, deal with depression, bipolar disorder, possible autism, as my doctor friend proposed, that I was Asperger's, based on what I told him about my background, my isolation, my loneliness, my shyness, and my dedication to my athleticism and my academics. Without really talking to many people, I was like in my own world. So he suggested I had Asperger's, even though I didn't get a formal diagnosis. And that happens to be what my son has, Asperger's, high functioning, though socially not so. And I'm dealing with my son's autism and this situation with the group home, which is also depressing me. So, well, I forgot to discuss what I was trying to discuss about this poor woman who posted on Snow Patrol's Chasing Cars video, which had a 2007 release, that video. And I saw her post, which was 2 years ago. And in the post, she said she lost her son and her daughter, both at the age of 29, same exact age, a couple of years apart, the son and then the daughter. And she has another son who's the only survivor of the kids. And she said in her post or her comment that he had attempted suicide also twice. So, as she's relaying this, it just hit me. And it seemed like it was fate that I happened to want to see that video. And then I always scroll down to the comments. And when I saw her comment, I couldn't stop crying. I was so sad for her and what she had gone through. This post is 2 years ago now, so I hope that her other son, her youngest son, is still okay, because she said he also was attempting or had attempted suicide twice. And in her comment, she said she's worried that her living son maybe or most likely won't see 30 years old, because he's now 28, and both his siblings, his sister and brother, both committed suicide at 29, and he's 28, and the mother is like freaking out, knowing that he already attempted suicide. And it was a heartfelt comment. And if you watch that video, bring a box of tissues with you, Kleenex tissues or whatever tissues you use, because you're going to need it. I mean, I cried for like 20 minutes reading that. And then I replied, discussing all I've been through. And I said, I wish I could offer you some solace, but I couldn't find the words, so I just related what we went through. And so I hope that things somewhat get better for her and her surviving son, because they both need each other. And you see, that's what depression does to you. It really robs you of the desire to live, because you're in so much emotional pain, and it's not good. I've been there, and I can't explain what it feels like when you try to kill yourself. And I have cops that are here at my house on a regular basis, because people had phoned in that they were concerned that I was suicidal. And also in third-party conversations on phone calls, I would say I don't want to live anymore. I just wish I could die. So they're required under state law to report that. It's mandatory. And when the cops come and they hear that, you have to go to the hospital for a psych evaluation. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because I fought the police on many occasions saying I don't want to go to the hospital. They don't help me. But they refused to take that as an answer. Even if they have to handcuff me, they will. I've even had an incident where I was running from the cop because I was scared. I ran out of the house when they were trying to get me into the ambulance. And I ran and ran and ran and even ran in front of a car that was driving by. So they put in the paperwork when they brought me to the hospital that I attempted suicide by trying to get hit by the car. And so when they got me out of that situation where I almost got hit, they tackled me to the sidewalk on the grass, and they put a needle in me, and I just went out, and I had no recollection of being brought to the hospital. I mean, it was like instantaneously that I went out, and then they brought me to the hospital and they revived me, but I had no recollection of being taken there. So I learned my lesson. If the cops come, I'm not going to resist anymore. I'll just go with them to the hospital. And I hope to God that I can go forward, because there are times when I don't want to live. You know, I get so depressed, and I say to myself, what am I doing with my life? Why do I have to suffer like this? And it really kills you inside. It robs you of life when you start to realize, why do you want to die when life is supposed to be so beautiful? I don't see the beauty in life because I've only seen pain. Even with my son, who attempted suicide twice, and he's only 20 years old. Though I also attempted suicide when I was 16, when I reached puberty and knew that I was not going to become a female. And that's when I wanted to do surgery. I tried in my teens, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and then in my early 50s, I came out. And that's when my whole world came crashing down on me. I lost my job. I lost lots of friends in the process. I lost my self-esteem. My two sisters stopped talking to me since I came out 7 years ago, with like an occasional text message, but no verbal communication, no invites to family functions. It seems to me that I've been banned from the families of my two sisters. They don't even invite me to family functions. Like this past Easter, my two sisters got together with their families to celebrate Easter, but they didn't even call me to tell me that. And just one of my sisters on Father's Day sent me a message, a message on my phone contacts, and she wished me a happy Father's Day. 3 words in the message: happy Father's Day. She doesn't address me as Emily. She doesn't address me as female. You know, it's like they don't accept that. So they only address me in my male persona with my male name, and they address me as a guy instead of as a female. And they never address me as Emily. Never, since the 7 years I came out. Almost 7 years ago when I came out. So, you know, with all of this happening in my life, and that's why I'm depressed. And sometimes I just want to go. I want to go. You know, why do I keep having to suffer like this? You know, and I'm scared if I were to go to that 40-year high school reunion, because I have no idea how I would be received. So I, in a friendly gesture, posted on the JFK High School Belmore reunion Facebook page that I wished all of my former high school classmates who were going to attend or intended to attend the reunion. I wish them to have a wonderful time. I wish them to be safe in their travels to the venue and back home. And I also express my condolences to our former high school classmates who perished. And I also indicated for all our former classmates who are still here that I wish them very happy lives. And then I posted a video of a song apropos to our high school graduating class of 1979. And can you guess what that song was and who the artist is? It is The Knack, and the song, you'll guess, My Sharona. Because I remember hearing that song as a senior in high school, and every time I hear it, it brings me back to those days of high school. Because it was prominent. I would say it was the best song of 1979, and it's our song. And it's funny how music plays a part in your life where you can remember events. And that song I associate with my 1979 high school graduating class, because it also came out in 1979. It was released in June of 1979, and I was still in school because we didn't yet complete the academic program, and graduation was like 2 weeks after that song came out and hit the radio waves and broadcast on all the radio stations. I think I saw it on YouTube as well, but I don't remember exactly. So the only thing now that gets me through is my son, but I don't know how I'm going to survive when he's in a group home, because I'll feel like I don't have a purpose anymore. And if I don't have a purpose, then what's the point of going on? You know, I have all these friends who are so happy with the way their children turned out. They went to college. Some of them furthered their education by going to medical school. Some became attorneys. Some went on to be business leaders, scientists. Some went to MIT. My classmates and their children, MIT and Harvard too. Some went to Columbia University, NYU, Brooklyn College, Lehigh University, Boston College, Boston University, Tufts, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, UCLA. Some went to Nassau Community College like I did for my start of college. Then I transferred to Virginia Tech to study mechanical engineering, and then somehow I found myself back home going to Hofstra University studying to be a CPA, which I did pass successfully, and I practiced as a CPA from 1990 on, the same year my mom passed away. And I studied engineering for roughly 3.5 years, mechanical, but I was struggling academically, even though I loved studying those courses and doing the labs associated with those courses. But it was overwhelming for me. I went from a B average at Nassau to a C average at Virginia Tech. And I was overwhelmed and I got scared. So I had to take a year off. And then my parents suggested I go to Hofstra. And I did, and I completed my education there. I got a bachelor's degree and worked as an accountant for 30 years until I got sick. When I came out, I was let go and I got sick and wound up in hospitals, and I've been going ever since. I'm on hormones for my male to female transition, and currently I'm hoping to do bottom surgery for male to female. And I'm writing, I'm doing YouTube videos, slideshow videos with music set in the background, and I am going out with my son, movies, getting something to eat, going to concerts. I think we went to like 3 Trans-Siberian Orchestra concerts at Nassau Coliseum and one in New Jersey. It was like 4 years in a row. And now we're going to a concert in July 12th, to see Jimmy Eat World and Third Eye Blind. So I'm looking forward to that, going with my son. And now we also go to Citi Field to see the Mets, because I got a 20-game ticket plan. We've gone to a few games. I still can't think of that woman's name who committed suicide a week before Anthony Bourdain. I can't remember her name. I wish I could, because I'm going to close out shortly. I'm approaching an hour on the video, and I'm sure I'm boring most of you. That's not my intention. My intention is to try to raise awareness. Yeah, I can't remember her name, unfortunately. My memory's not as good as it used to be. I think my brain cells are dying. Yeah, I don't remember her name. If it comes to me before I close out, I'll mention it. I can almost have it because I recently walked by the store with her name on it, which she no longer owns, or owned. Obviously she's gone now, but before she died, I don't remember. She's very entrenched in the fashion industry though. Smart, savvy businesswoman, and she's related, I believe her brother-in-law is an actor. I haven't seen him in a while in movies, but he's a funny comedian type actor. I don't remember his name, because if I remember his name, then I'll make the right connection to her name. Crazy. Because I know their names, I just can't think of them. Oh, Spade. David Spade. She's married to his brother, Spade. Why can't I think of her name? I believe her last name is Spade, though. I don't remember her first name. Anyway, it's approaching 60 minutes, and I guess that's it. 60 Minutes. That was a good news program, too, with Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs. Anyway, I will say goodbye until my next video, which I'm planning to do another slideshow. Thank you. Love you. Bye. Emily.